The finals in Barcelona. Sorry, Alec. The finals in Barcelona. The finals in Barcelona. The 1972 European Cup Winners' Cup final was in Barcelona. And the finals in Barcelona. All you're saying it is in Barcelona because you're doing that kind of present past tense thing that we do when we're trying to bring it all to life in a documentary. We're trying to, as if we're back there and the finals is in Barcelona. That's fantastic. Is that the final in 1972 Cup Winners' Cups in Barcelona? Yeah, it is. I think that's great, Alec. Fantastic. In Barcelona, 1972, Colin Steen scored one, Willie Johnston two. So. Where was the final that year? Oh, the final was actually in the new Camp Stadium, which in 1972 actually wasn't as big as it was like in the 80s because they hadn't built that extra tier up. No, Alec. I mean, what city was the final in? They're talking about the Barcelona Bears here, the Rangers team that won the Cup Winners' Cup in Barcelona. In 1972, when Colin Steen scored one, Willie Johnston two. Wait, what city was that final played in? The final was in Barcelona. The insight. You have lit up this documentary. I think you've probably hit the keynote of this entire documentary right there. I think we're going to hang the whole thing around. I've just been talking to James Cosmo does the bit at the beginning. And he's like a world famous actor. He's got contacts all over the place. Hollywood, obviously worked with Mel Gibson on in Braveheart and that. And I've just been showing him the rushes. And he said that when you said, where is it? The finals in Barcelona. He said when you said that bit, he's just like he's in pieces. He's like Stanislavski. He says we've got to do something with this guy. I think he's got a project set up for you. Maybe some of his Hollywood pals will talk to you, and you can maybe that'd be fun. But I just need to check just before I talk to James again. Where did you say the final was? The 1972 Cup Winners' Cup final, the Barcelona Bears and the Rangers when they fighting the Guardia Civil on the pitch. And where was the finals in Barcelona? Oh, brilliant! That's just. Do you have like your own kind of research library in the house, or do you just go, to the Mitchell Library and check the sources and that thing? But no, I just looked up in the book the night before. That's. Alec, I really. This is why we had to get you on board because nobody else could provide that kind of information. That kind of, you just it must be real like anal retentive. Must be like a computer you've got in there. The 1972 Cup Winners' Cup final. It was in Barcelona. Well, Alec, I wish you all the best because I think your journalistic writerly endeavours will go from strength to strength after this. When people see this on Amazon Prime, they see the Rangers 72 documentary. They will remember the moment they found out where the 1972 Cup. They're mostly going to be Rangers supporters that are watching this. It'll be good for them to find out where the final was played in 1972. That's the. I don't even remember what time of year it was. I think it was winter. It was obviously, or maybe it was getting into spring. I have a funny feeling it was kind of February, March. Maybe it was still January. I don't think it was before Christmas. I don't think it was before Christmas, but I just remember that thing sitting in the house. I'm going to get in it's a Friday night kick-off. We're playing Hearts in the Championship. Ali McCoy is still the manager. And playing Hearts at Ibrox. And it's a kind of Friday night. It's a bit of naff time to go to a live football match, particularly in the winter. You just want to be sitting getting a drink or something like that. But I knew, obviously, you will know what time you have to leave the house if you're taking the car to go to the game. You know the length of your journey and you know how much kind of spare time you got to give yourself. So it was about 10 minutes before I was due to leave in the car to go to the game. I think it was a notification on my phone. And I just got up. It's not the street I live in now, but I went up and I opened the curtains and looked, and it was like 3 feet of snow had fallen in like 5 minutes. The place was just a blanket, absolute blanket, and it was like, I can't. And because it was that time, it's after tea time, but it's before. But everybody's in for their work. The street I was in there, it's like a cul-de-sac, but it's a right long street. And of course, typical Glasgow, it's double parked the whole way up. But there's not even nobody is late. Everybody is home for their work, and anybody who's doing anything, I think it was the only guy in the street who was going to see Rangers. If they're doing anything, they're going on foot because it's going to involve drinking on a Friday night. So no cars had left the street. So there wasn't even a track that I could follow to get out the street. And at the end of your street is a massive big steep hill cutting across before you get to the kind of main arteries that are probably going to be not as bad. A lot of heavy traffic on them, so it was keeping maybe the snow under control. You could navigate them a bit more comfortably. But I actually tried to move the motor. It's insane when I think about it. I had to dig it out, basically, and then I started trying to drive down the road, and there was nothing to follow. I was just driving straight through snow that was piling up, and could hardly have thought if I slip 1 inch left or right, I'm going to scud into somebody else's car, and there's no really any way I can justify doing that, because there's no way I'm missing the Fitbit, but it's too late, because you've left it to the last minute, because you've got a car. if I want to go to the underground, I need to leave about an hour earlier. If I want to, so I eventually had to get to a train station, and then I got a train into Copeland Road, and it's Ibrox. Even if you're not living in the 1930s, I got a train I got the underground from Buchanan Street to Ibrox. That was the plan. But it's that way, you're sitting in the train, knowing that the game's kicked off. It's a really weird feel. It's not a nice feeling. And the championship was gone. Hearts, who were playing, had won the league, but all but had won the championship. They were cruising away from us from the moment they beat us in the first game of the season at Ibrox. And they just cruised on to the title, and we were going to have to go up through the playoffs. It wasn't a meaningless game, but obviously it was a bit depressing. But still, just that feeling of, I'm not actually going to be there. But there was some people and some other Rangers supporters on the train out to Queen Street. Obviously the same situation myself, caught out with the snow. And then, but as I got off the train and the platforms are that kind of wet way where folk have been hit by snow, it's all melting in the platforms, and it's mucky as well. Right, dank, dark night. And there's Rangers supporters coming the other way, getting onto the train to head away from it. What, is the game being postponed? But I'm checking my phone. No, it hasn't been. There's something strange going on other than the weather. And I walk past like Sammy Dow's and all that, and there's to get into the Buchanan Street underground. And it's all because the heavy footfall. It's that kind of slush, it's puddles, and it's bits of snow, and it's kind of mucky looking. And then you get into the underground, and there's kind of steam coming up off the thing because it's hot in there. But there's some Rangers fans again coming up the way. I don't know what's happening. But getting the subway with other Rangers supporters heading out to the game late, same as myself. And then there's as I got to Copeland Road, as I come out the underground at Ibrox Underground Station, coming to Copeland Road, there's a wee crowd of guys ran past us like fully grown men. Maybe late 20s, early 30s, boisterous, extremely boisterous. And they're shouting stuff and that. I thought, is there a fight? Have the Hearts casuals been hanging about and they're hanging out? Is this one of these pre-arranged things you see in the Danny Dyer programme? But no, it was they were shouting about something else, and a couple of them had balaclavas on. I thought, well, it is winter. It is wintry weather. Is this a fashion choice? I think it's for anonymity. And then there was police vans kicking about as well in a way they didn't usually kick about in a match day. And there was people coming down Mafeking Street, same vibe. It wasn't anti-Rangers. It was very pro-Rangers, but it was kind of cheerful, or kind of like boisterous, heavy boisterous. It was, there was something in the air. Eventually get into my seat, get up into the main stand and up into my seat, and the folk I usually sit beside, I'm just sitting there. I was the snow caught us out, couldn't get in earlier, not miss much. So the game's going on. See that thing of it's quite an amazing thing. To walk into a stadium when the game's going on, you can appreciate why you love football. But it was a terrible game. It's that big fat guy, really huge guy who was playing up front for Hearts, and I've got a cheek saying that, but he's probably the same size as me back then in terms of weight, and he tore us to pieces. I think the last game of the season, I remember 2-0 up against Hearts at Tynecastle in their trophy lifting day, and they come back to equalise late on, score 2 goals late on, just to make everything that season absolutely garbage. And this big fella had been tearing it up. I think he was the top scorer in the league that season, so we couldn't laugh at him, but it just summed it up. That big tubster was destroying us. He was getting the thing that we wanted that season, promoted, and he's bouncing about, and the snow is thick on the grass, but it's melting because the undersoil heating's on, and they're trying to clear it, and then eventually the pitch became soggy. I don't know if I was even there at half time. I don't know when the game got abandoned, but I saw about 20 minutes of football. The game gets abandoned. There's uproar in the crowd. The Jambos have come all the way through from Edinburgh. They're particularly outraged, and then there's a bit of dust. There's kind of a wee bit of fighting going on. Nothing much, more kind of charging back and forth, lunging back and forth over in the corner with the away fans in the Broomlin. But it wasn't a wise idea to be taking on the Bears that night, because there was a kind of nastiness, a pro-Rangers nastiness in the air that wasn't even directed towards Hearts. And then I'm getting the messages, the texts, and you're finding out what actually went on. And it was the Bears had basically attacked Argyle House, and they were trying to get him in a suit. It was Ashley. We were getting rid of Mike Ashley and his henchmen. They thought they could come and just squat at Ibrox and do what they did to Newcastle. A whole lot of guys flew up north, or a 50,000 capacity stadium. It's going to be the same kind of. No, it'd be a bit different. We're a bit different, Mike. This just isn't going to happen at all. That was the night he get hunted, basically, and the following season, apart from how that season ended, it seems as if it was all really sunny. Even the Scottish Cup final at the end of the following season, it was sunny that day, but it seemed it was like sunshine or the whole following season. But I just, that night, it wasn't a good night. And I saw about 20 minutes of rubbish football, then had to go home again and start. But it wasn't a fun night, but it kind of was. It wasn't a nice night, but it was a good night. It got stuff done, and it was carnage. It was chaos. It was crazy. It was all over the place. It was the opposite of organised on the face of things, but it kind of was exactly what we needed at the same time, and that's Rangers. The beautiful thing about it was that's Rangers. It's one of the most Rangers moments in my life. It wasn't in the low point of being in the lower leagues. It wasn't a high point either, but it was something that needed doing, and we were just the people to do it. I wasn't involved. I had zero activism in that respect that night. I was just trying to get to the game, and even that was chaotic. It just seemed to sum it up. I accidentally was on the same vibe. The weather was on the same vibe. Things, and this is what it is with Rangers. This is what we do. This is how we do. There's football clubs have this, the kind of public persona and the private persona, the reality. Is it beneath the candelabra, behind the candelabra, whatever it is? Like Celtic, it's they're cheeky, chappy bohemians. They're all intellectuals. It's great crack, and they're giving it to the man and all that. And it's just a bunch of accountants and bankers and Tory voting, and that's just Rod Stewart. They've got the same mix of fans as every other club, and we're exactly the same. You get different characters within every support, but I think something like Liverpool supporters, the salt of the earth, the banter you get off them. I bumped into Liverpool casuals at Central Station in Glasgow and that, and just would slash you in two as soon as you look at you, and Partick Thistle, Partick Thistle, the cuddly toy of Scottish football and all that. No one playing Airdrie. It's no, that was one of the best battles in the streets of Scottish football was when Airdrie and Partick Thistle used to clash. But the thing with Rangers is because we have, for many people, for people who don't like us, one of the most negative kind of public-facing images in Scottish football and British football and world football. It's just the dour Presbyterians. It's like an ongoing national anthem, isn't it? Supporting Rangers. You know the lyrics. There is some musicality in there, but it's mostly lecturing, hectoring, preaching conformity. And you can't take individual thoughts, a herd mentality, and it's just like, in reality, it's absolutely great fun. Of course, it's just like a big, messy family, and all families have their crackpots and their bampots, and they're usually the funniest folk in the whole thing, and it's the same with us. But it's actually the idea that somehow Rangers, but with Bill Struth, obviously the thing of getting the players to wear +4s and three-piece suits and bowler hats and all that. And that was just when they're playing on the park at Celtic, playing at Parky. No, but wearing all that kind of stuff and being a bit a cut above everybody else in society and that kind of thing. And you'll get 10,000 seats. The main stand where I sit just now is just a part of the whole season ticket seat phenomenon throughout the British top flight. But back in the day, Bill Struth, certainly first starting the Rangers, it's like the 10,000 seats. In fact, it wasn't even that main stand. When Bill Struth was starting as Rangers kind of manager, it was, but the main stand run just now, that was the only bit that was seated for most of his time there, and it's like 100,000 people are standing and terracing, the same as everybody else. But the idea was we're a bit better, we're the establishment. Well, HMRC, his or her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, despite the fact we've got a bloody monarch's portrait in our dressing room, they choose to make an example of us instead of Google or Starbucks. And when it comes to the old tax, an Archibald Leach Stadium, when Winston Churchill came in, made speeches, his campaign trail when booted him out after he served his purpose during the Second World War, but he made a comeback after that, and later on in the 40s, and his campaign trail was speeches at Ibrox. There's this beautiful picture in one of my Simon Inglis books there of a whole lot of men and women sitting in the enclosure, sitting down at the edge of the enclosure, that listening to Winston Churchill doing this speech. The main stand packed with conservative voting posh types from Scotland, but it's the reality. The enclosure going up and down like a trampoline. We're playing Leeds United and Real Britannia and all that stuff. And we're rioted at Villa Park, we're rioted at Roker Park, we're rioted at Old Trafford on the 70s. And all that. We're banned for half of England, was the biggest constituent nation of that United Kingdom that we seem to be flying the flag of all the time. And the Cup, our only European triumph. we weren't allowed to defend the trophy. We get banned for a year after it. We nearly didn't get the trophy. We didn't get to lift it on the park. We didn't get to, and this is I ended up in this prime. You see at Rangers 72. Rangers were playing Bruges. We're playing Club Bruges last week in the first leg, and that's on Amazon Prime. And then there's also the Rangers. It was only when I was looking up to try and find it. I came like, I've not seen this for a while. I don't sit and watch it every night. No, I don't, because I'm kind of embarrassed. As I'm going to explain to you why. I want that Amazon Prime. The reasons I got involved are really, really tenuous, a bit desperate. But I ended up getting myself in there as one of the kind of talking heads on that Rangers 72 documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. I think the Rangers game. I think the away leg, tonight's away leg, is also on Amazon in some sort of capacity. There's something different about it. I'm not very technical, and it's on TNT anyway. I'll be watching it on that, but. So you're looking up Rangers, Amazon Prime, and up Rangers 72, and I was like, oh, here we go. And it was for the 50th anniversary of Rangers. A fantastic documentary, despite me being in it. Really quite emotional as well, with all the players. And I managed to get myself involved in that, and it was embarrassing. I'm sitting there like, I watch it now though, and I think I look quite good because I'm even heavier than I was. I'm so fat. The last thing I need to be is in a documentary. I don't want to attract those folk that it's not something I was like comfortable with, but they do that thing where you're sitting, the talking heads thing, where you just sit and you talk for like an hour or 2 hours. They'll just ask you lots of questions. I think they ask them of everybody. Obviously, they're asking the players and the people who actually took part in the game very different questions, but they're asking us kind of nerds what we think, and so you just talk through it, and you think they'll take out a few quotes and all that. And they took out more quotes than I realised for myself, and I was just like, at first I was like, oh well, it wasn't a complete waste of time. And then, but I realised what was happening was, because there's no narrator for the thing, they're just putting together, as they do in a lot of documentaries. It's not a documentary, it's more than a documentary, it's much more emotional than that, but they kind of construct the narrative from some of the quotes where they had to trace people that they've spoken to saying things like, in the first round they played Rennes. In the second round, it was Sporting Club de Portugal in the quarterfinal. It was Torino, and just to kind of dot that out for anybody who doesn't actually know the story of what happened in 71, 72, who might be watching. But everybody, you get the players, John Gregg and Derek Jones, they're just saying things like, I I injured myself, and then next thing I'm marking Franz Beckenbauer and stuff like that. They don't have to do any research. They played the games. They don't really have to do any research. They're gods. They can just have these throwaway lines like, I just sat in the bar against Bayern Munich, who were the best team in the world at that point in time. All right, Wally, that's fine. You're done. You've just owned this entire documentary. Whereas us, only entitled to lick their boots. I'm sitting, I was doing all the kind of, actually Davy White in the second season of Charles, I mean, the points difference was certain, but actually in second place this time. But Willie Waddle, who was not just, so it's me, they be kind of filler bits that are just every now and then, because I was the most boring guy on the thing. And then I watched it back, and it's my speech, the actual articulation, my vocabulary is terrible. And I watch things and I don't feel the same. If you're my age, I think there's so much stuff that is on Netflix and the streaming services, just modern actors and modern directors. It's all very mumbly and speaks really quick. I know I've got a cheek saying that, but I'm not exactly a professional. And then I have to put the subtitles up to hear it, to work out what they're saying. So I've left the subtitles on when I went on at this thing last week and saw myself again. And it's just, the subtitles are like just saying, and it was kind of, and Bayern Munich in the semi-final, and it was kind of like the best night really in the whole run, and it was kind of like, but at the time I get to the final, I'm like, and basically, Bayern Munich were basically beat after 20 minutes, and basically that was him. Basically, Rangers won this final. It's so embarrassing. It's absolutely terrible. When you get the boy, it's Dave Smith's son, who's a proper writer and books out and stuff like that. He's sitting in the Loudon, he steps up to the back at the Loudon in one of Ibrox, in the actual pub itself, and it's got the red, white and blue lighting and the flooring and all that, and all the framed photographs of the Barcelona Bears and that up in the back, and he's like Keats and Shelley and Byron and Wordsworth all rolled out. Well, I'm in tears listening to this fella. He's absolutely amazing. You know, and it's just the prose is spot on, and and because it's his dad as well, that just gives it this extra resonance. And he's talking about the semi-final against Bayern. You know, it's redemption. I'm like, redemption. That's a great word, redemption. I'm like, who can think of words like that? You're just like, basically, you know, that was redemption for the final in '67 because they'd lost it and they weren't going to lose it again and all that. And this is the moment that seals your fate, your reputation for the rest of your life. It's the best cuts to me, you know. The finals in Barcelona. The finals in Barcelona. Is that no fucking shit, Sherlock? Well said. Oh, tremendous. Great. Thanks, Alec. Thanks for the contribution there. You know, I had this bit all prepared. I was just kind of reading over because me and Ronnie had written a book about it like 20 years before. So I thought I better go and do that thing where once you write about something or you do a podcast about it, you completely forget everything about it. The most embarrassing thing was, back in 2002, in the Rangers shop that used to be in St Enoch's, because Rangers wanted to do a wee official presentation of the book that me and Ronnie had done. The book that we had done. I mean, that's just so the book that what I had wrote with Ronnie. So you get Sandy Jardine was there, Peter McCloy, Colin Jackson. You know, guy's no longer with us. An absolute privilege. And I get a photograph taken in a replica of the trophy. And I'm going to say, Barcelona. I know Colin Jackson didn't play in the final, but I'm the trophy. And this is unbelievable. I love my European football. I love Rangers Europe. This is just unreal. And I look like a complete doofus in the photo. I've burned the photograph because I'm just so. I haven't burned it. It's a digital photograph, but. I just look like the hair. I did have more hair there, but it's all over the place. I'm just like, just woke up kind of thing, you know. But at one point, me and Ronnie are sitting, and then because they're all bantering away, all teammates, Peter McCloy and Colin Jackson, all winding each other up, having a laugh and that, and me and Ronnie are just kind of standing by going, "Oh, this is brilliant!" Isn't it? I said, "Just listen to them," you know. And then we're talking to ourselves, and so we're standing about in this shop, and then Peter McCloy comes up, and he's just, hang on a second, last these boys, who was top scorer in the tournament that season, you know, and Peter Osgood scored more goals. It's not for us. Who scored most goals for us in that run, that European run? And me and Ronnie were both looking at each other, going, I think it was half nerves, half we'd go to the book written and that was it. It was gone. But I'm like, so Alec McDonald scored against Willie Johnson scored against Rennes away from home, didn't he? And Alec McDonald scored against him at home, and Alec McDonald, he scored against Torino as well, didn't he? And in the fight, Peter McCloy, sorry, but don't worry about it. It's like, Jesus Christ, these are the guys that wrote the book, and they're not even fucking gone, completely gone. You know, did the same thing as the boys were decorating, redoing the kitchen a few years later in that same house that I left for to go to the Hearts game. Got the kitchen done up and the bathroom done up, and the fellas were coming. So when the fellas finished that, gave them drinking that, and one of the boys was a blue nose, so I gave him a copy of the book because I've still got 200 sitting in boxes. So I gave him a copy of the book. Just there you go, mate. So brilliant. So he was doing a few, and he's like, "What was it? Who was the top scorer?" I mean, it's Colin Steen, you know. But I'm like, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I still didn't. He's like, "You sure you wrote this book? You sure you did?" The guy's just ripping the absolute mick at me. It's like, "Oh, see, once you write something, you get it. It's very good. You just don't know, you know." And it's like, I absolutely don't. So it's really, really embarrassing. But the problem, sorry, I'm just going on and on about my life experiences here, but it's supposed to be a short pod. That's 23 minutes, and it's okay. The whole point was a bit, and I'd prepared. Thought I'm going to have my moment. I will have my moment. And the bit I always think about is I was only 2 at the time, you know, when the cup, so I don't remember it, you know. But I grew up, you know, learning more about it and all that. And the bit for me as a kid when I was first start seeing highlights on the show, maybe the highlights every now and on Sports Scene or something. I'm like, right, that bit where Peter McCloy kicks the ball for the third goal. Peter McCloy just boots this ball, it goes right up into the air, so far up into the sky, and it comes down, and Willie Johnson just kills this ball out of the air, and he slots it away, and that's it. It's 3-0, 49 minutes, 3-0. You think game over. But I always remember as a kid seeing the ball going up so high that you saw over the top of the stand. And then as I was growing up, Barcelona put on an extra tier in that stand, the tier that I would then sit in 2007 when I saw Rangers playing Barcelona at the Nou Camp in the Champions League. So I thought, I get it all confused in my head, thinking that Peter McCloy had kicked the ball so high that it had actually gone up above, the new camp that hadn't had that tier built yet, had gone so high. It probably did. It would go above that as well. So I had this whole bit worked out about how I'd grown up with that legend, and Peter McCloy kicks the ball out so high. He himself is so tall and kicks the ball so high that it actually goes up above the floodlights, above the Nou Camp Stadium in Barcelona, and you can see out onto the. I don't think I mentioned Gaudi, but you can see out onto the streets of Barcelona. You can see car parks and all that beyond. It's almost like the moon, and it's coming down. And when Willie Johnson takes that ball, it's no more than just controlling a ball that's coming out of the air. It's coming out of orbit. It's coming out of stratosphere, and he takes it with one touch and then swivels it and deftly slots it away for so they cut it a wee bit when I said that, and it just basically came out as I saw Peter McCloy kicks the ball out and Willie Johnson puts it away for 3-0. Great, thanks very much. And they made me do it. Made me and Ronnie. Nobody else had to do the bit where they walk. The wee bit where you get like in Reporting Scotland, if they're going to they show you an interview with somebody, but it's not a live interview. They're not in the studio. It's something they've filmed earlier that day, like with a politician at Holyrood, and they're going to talk to them outside. But they'll do the thing. The same film crew will film them walking down a corridor in the Parliament building, or walking down a street in Edinburgh towards where the interview's going to be. So they can have a voiceover saying, I had to talk to MSP such and such today about this, and that person's walking in, as if it's supposed to be natural, And I saw Jonathan Watson. I would never forget it. It's the best thing I ever saw on all the Only an Excuse. Jonathan Watson did it. It was about Alex Salmond. He was impersonating Alex Salmond, and he just thought to add this bit that they always do in these reports. He's obviously spoofing a Reporting Scotland report, so he did the wee bit where make Alex Salmond walk down the street as if he's trying to be natural, just the way he was mincing down the street. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. But I didn't realise I was going to end up doing the same thing. Here's me and Ronnie. They're saying to us, they've got his Nescafe thing, which was, it was great in terms of the mood. It looks like it's the 70s. Like Jack and Ellie's up in Maryhill, which I think has subsequently been on fire. So I don't know if it's still the same kind of place. Nothing to do with me and Ronnie, honestly. And it was great and all that, but I'm sitting there like a fat ball-faced, like behind a table in a cafe, that's really famous for serving ice cream, as well as like rolls and sausage and stuff like that. So I just looked like I'm out stuffing my face. The only way we could interview Alec Anderson was to get him at an eatery. I'm sitting, that's bad enough. It's actually really good. It's really nice. But they did a thing, can you do the wee thing where you walk, we're going to film you walking into the place as if, there just happens to be a camera outside as you both arrive at the same time with no jackets on, and it's peeing down outside in the pitch black. And I did that, and it was like, no, can we film it for the other angle as well? So we had to come in for both sides. Is it Garscube Road or still? It's Maryhill Road still, isn't it? That jacket. We bet it's where Garscube Road meets Maryhill Road. And you're walking in, it's pitch black and it's peeing down that, and then it's like, Ronnie go in first. Let Ronnie, oh no, we'll do it, you go in first. I'm like, no, Ronnie, can you slam the door on Alex's face to me? And we're peeing ourselves, just trying to be, we're just walking into an interview here. We're just walking into a cafe to talk about Rangers. But it was that just allowed them the full. It was like they wanted a full length shot of just exactly how fat I was. Why me? Why am I the only person getting the full? It's like, it's bad enough you can see how fat, but let's get a wide shot of this guy. Let's get a wide shot of this lard ass so we can see his gut actually hanging outside his jeans and his shirt there. What a disgusting mess. So that's something I've always got for posterity. But the thing was, the bit I did get to talk about was it's not infamous, but it's a lovely. That's the whole point, because we didn't get to parade the trophy. We didn't get to presented with the trophy most famously in the Nou Camp Stadium out on the pitch. Didn't get to do a lap of honour on the pitch. John Gregg, we did it back at Ibrox. Took the trophy back to Ibrox, and the players all got in the back of what was a coal lorry. Went round this old oval-shaped Ibrox before it was redeveloped, and they go around the track at the old Ibrox in the back of this coal lorry. The supporters are all cheering them for the stands, and it's raining as well. And I managed to spit something out which was along the lines of, even if the players don't like it, we love it, which was very nice. Wasn't it very nice? It was the final. It was the finals in Barcelona. They put my voice in for that bit. They set up into the final. It's the one, the semi-final against Bayern Munich. Just my voice under. Just footage of the fans leaving, in their hordes to go over to getting the buses now over to Barcelona. Finals in Barcelona, and the most obvious fact of the whole thing, it's big, monotone, stupid, Boheed's voice. So Archie McPherson's on it as well. And he's listening to Archie McPherson's the greatest voice in Scottish history. Archie McPherson. And it's like, oh, talk to this guy here about Barcelona. So what was I talking? I want to say something much more poetic. I just couldn't reach the heights of. And the beautiful speaking voice as well of Dave Smith's son. I just couldn't do that at all. When nobody spat out something along the lines of, I just thought it was great. I grew up with that because I wasn't there at the time. But I grew up with these images of the Rangers players, this old Union Jack in the front of an old truck going round the pitch. But these pure classy Adidas trackies on, the 3 stripes, and they've got the European Cup Winners' Cup, and they're displaying it to fans. And it was like, I was growing up at a time where it was Rangers fans seemed to be rioting. The whole of British football was rioting all the time. So it was just wild, and it was great. It's just absolutely great. It's like we've played with 5 European finals, and there's been riots at 2 of them. We've rioted at 2. One was inside the stadium fighting the fascist hordes of the Guardia Civil. The other one's outside the stadium in Manchester. Another English place that we've went to as a so-called kind of, the most British, the quintessential British club. Let's trash various parts of Britain anytime we can. It's not funny. It's not funny, but it just shows there's nothing. So this whole thing with Russell Martin, where it's like we want him sacked in August. We want him to get rid of him. He's got to go now. This isn't going to get any better. I'm calling it time of death on Russell Martin. No, I called it earlier than that. I called it before he arrived, and folk did call it before he arrived. I wasn't that enthusiastic about him coming either, but we know what he's got to do. We know the job he's been presented with. We should all know. We should all have been told. We should all know. Not only is this how he operates, at other clubs he's been to, it takes 10 to a dozen games before they get going. But we also know the depth, the size of the job that's required to be done at Rangers. So I'm not trying to say the guys. He's not proven that he's management material, but we've not given him a chance either. Under the terms that I think we're all not accepted, but the terms that we're kind of dishing out towards Rangers. There's been a problem with our dressing room for years. We're great against Celtic, they can get up for it for Celtic games, they can get up for it for European games, but now, when it comes to the games against Motherwell, the games against St Mirren, the games against Dundee, they just don't do it, they can't be bothered. That's going to take a while. That's an endemic problem. It's a legacy issue. It's going to take a wee while. Give him to at least the end of the first transfer window before we can see his team kind of settling down. I don't know. Maybe he's going to get sacked tomorrow. Maybe Brendan Rodgers has been sacked as we speak. I know Celtic have gone out the Champions League. Russell Martin has lasted the Champions League at least a day longer than Celtic did this season. Another feather in his cap. He's lasted a round longer than Philip Clement did, and that's having come in an hour earlier than Philip Clement did last season. Russell Martin, that's something he's done in Champions League. But this whole thing, he's drawn with St Mirren and Paisley, which is exactly what we did last time we played St Mirren and Paisley under Barry Ferguson. He's drawn me Motherwell and Motherwell. You drawn me Motherwell at Fir Park. That's exactly what we did the last time we went to Fir Park. Philip Clement was the manager we drew with Motherwell. He's struggled against Dundee, something that no Rangers team has done in the last 5-6 years. No Rangers team has ever struggled against Dundee, ever, in the last 5-6 years. But he's supposed to be making it better. He's supposed to be making it better. Well, he's not made it any worse as he gets to grips with everything that's required. A monumental task, we know it is. Change the whole style, change the atmosphere, change the squad, and we expect him to have. We're going to be the support that gets a manager. The chaos is good at Rangers. The chaos is good. Chaos theory, it definitely works for us at times. But I feel this might be one too many. I'm enjoying the nutbaggery of it, the fact that we're just going to hound this guy out the door. But too soon. I think it's too soon. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg. The first time Rangers recovered from a 2-goal deficit from the first leg away from home in European football was against a Belgian side, and I'm hoping that the first time we recover from a 2-goal deficit at home in the first leg in a European tie is going to also be against the Belgian side, that side being Club Brugge, who we play tonight. Preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet every Friday at 9 p.m. live on the Gersnet YouTube channel, and every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. live on the Gersnet YouTube channel, and thereafter available across all other decent streaming platforms. I'm sponsored by that, and I'm also sponsored by Raising the Prices. Raising the Prices, a brand new patriotic pastime, a kind of civic prides where we hoist those prices high. Brexit means Brexit, and if you truly love your country, you'll get out onto the streets and you will paint the town red, preferably quite near neighbours who are of a different colour to yourself. You'll paint the town red, and that should last you about half an hour, because it's about £7.50 for a decent pint. These days, you'll be skint pretty quickly, and it hoists the standards high. Hoist the standards high. I don't mean like health and safety standards or the standards of the NHS and like that, because compassion is totally woke. Dying for your country is patriotic. You must die, preferably die skint. Dulce et decorum est £1.65 for the 4 pints of milk. How in touch are you with the ordinary man, Alec? How much is a pint of milk? You tell me the price of a pint of milk? No, because it's too expensive getting a pint of milk. I get the 4 pints. You get the 4 pint carton. That's much cheaper. Or it's cheaper. I go to Morrison's for mine, and it's 2 weeks ago it seemed to be £1.45 for the 4 pint carton. It's 2.272 litres. 272 Barcelona, 1972. 2.272 litres. It was £1.45, and then about 2 minutes ago it was £1.55, and now it's £1.65. Raise the prices. Brexit means Brexit. It's the NHS thing. Do that, and we're going to Bruges. We've already dominated Brussels. We beat Brussels back in 2016. We don't need to bother with Club Bruges the night. We've already got a big British victory over there. And 1972, 72 pence for a can of Morrison's own brand soup, which has got a kind of Heinz type. It's got a very Heinz approximate labelling thing going on there. There's a try to work a wee number on you, but why not? It makes me feel better about buying it. But it's 72 pence. It seems like 2 minutes ago it was 33 pence. It's 33 pence. Maybe it was 10 years ago. Time flies in. You manage, but aye, if we're going to raise anything high, it seems to be interest. But as long as we've got patriotism, let's call it that, it won't be a problem. My name's Alec Anderson. When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful, a miracle. Oh, it was beautiful, magical. And all the birds in the trees, well, they'd be singing so happily, or joyfully, or playfully watching me. But then they send me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical, or responsible, practical. And then they showed me a world where I could be so dependable, or clinical, or intellectual, cynical. Yeah. Tick, yeah, did. Supertramp there, Supertramp. My name's Alec Anderson, and I am talking to you on the morning of the night that is going to be the second leg of Rangers' playoff European Football Association Champions League playoff round, second leg against Club Brugge of Belgium, and Rangers losing this tie 3-1 already from the first leg at Ibrox. And we're going to find, but already Scotland's last surviving club in the Champions League this season, and that's not mockery. It's something that's going to affect how we approach this game psychologically, I think, if nothing else. Is it pressure? Is Celtic been out of the Champions League, get knocked out by Kairat Almaty? We'd love to get to penalties tonight. That'd be a major victory for us. It's taking pressure off us, I would say, definitely. It puts pressure on Celtic to say they might not have a manager. Brendan Rodgers, we're wanting to hound out a manager just now as a support, a manager or a head coach we think is throwing the players under the bus, whereas the Celtic board seem to want to throw Brendan Rodgers. I think they're ready to throw Brendan Rodgers under the bus, but the Celtic support want to throw the board out under the bus. So it's and they're probably going to still get back later than us, even though they're leaving 24 hours earlier. Kazakhstan being oh so far away. So it definitely changes the attitude. I love European football. I love Rangers in Europe. I love us in the European Cup. I love us in the Champions League. I think there's an acceptance or just a kind of, we expect it, obviously. We're two goals down for the first leg at Ibrox. We've never recovered from any first leg defeat at home in a two-legged European tie. So we're expecting to go out. But I think a few of us are actually, and I've said it myself, for God's sake, don't go through. Don't go and win 2-0 tomorrow night or tonight, Rangers, and then win on penalties. Don't turn this tie around and go into the Champions League, because we couldn't cope with that, because the plan is to catch up with Celtic domestically, because we've been ahead of Celtic in European terms for 20 odd years. In terms of getting further than them. Good. They've had some good results in the Champions League and that Celtic, but they never get past that. They never get through a post-group knockout tie, whereas we just, it's second nature to us now, and it's a matter of immense pride to me. And I think we will find out now, this could be the season that I've been warning of, the cranky old man that I am. There seems to be a kind of lack of respect for Rangers' achievements in Europe amongst Rangers supporters, a lot of Rangers supporters, because they see that as being what's costing us in domestic terms, or it just gets thrown in there. It's kind of, it's testy times. It's all very well. You can go and beat Fenerbahce, but you can't beat Dundee at home or St Mirren away, Motherwell away. St Mirren and Motherwell, we've drawn the two of them away from home. St Mirren and Motherwell both beat us the last time they played at Ibrox last season. So let's try and get it into perspective a wee bit. But I feel as if there's a chance now Celtic drop into the Europa League group stage. Maybe we're going to get that first ever Old Firm European game. The Old Firm derby in Europe. Maybe it's going to be, the knockout stages or something like that. Can we meet in the group stage? I don't know if we can meet in the group stage. So far, I've not actually checked that out. But I was at the first Old Firm game involving a lower league club in a semi-final in 2016. Maybe 10 years later, it's going to be that first Old Firm European game. But I've been saying there will come a moment. Celtic fans get in your face. Look how many trophies Callum McGregor's won. How many fucking European knockout games has he won? Past the group stage. Zilch. But we don't bum that up as a support. And I said you should, because there's going to come a moment where we will not do as well as Celtic in Europe, and Celtic might end up going one stage further than us. They might end up winning a European trophy. It's quite winnable. You get a few years. We got to the final not that long ago. Maybe the Conference League is more winnable for Scottish teams. It would need to be Rangers or Celtic, obviously, but maybe they'll go further than us, maybe they'll win, and you will certainly, if they go any further than us in this competition, you will certainly start hearing about how that's the only thing to do. European achievement is the only thing that really counts in Scottish football. And we'll be like, but we know, but I tell you, you should cherish it while you have it. It's kind of freaking me out, the fact that Celtic are going to be in the Europa League as well, where I expect us to be. And now I'm kind of thinking, sod it, get in the Champions League, get the 40 million or however much. I think it's that whole pooling of the money thing is still going on, so there's no other Scottish team can have the Champions League money. It would only be us. It's not going to happen. We're not going to. I think we're just trying to avoid an absolute pounding in Bruges, quite frankly, the way we're playing just now. But it's setting the game up on Sunday, but I think there's much more far-reaching consequences to what's happened with Celtic in Kazakhstan just a few hours before I did this podcast, and I think it's a critical point with Celtic, and I think it speaks to us as to why we shouldn't be hasty when it comes to getting rid of Russell Martin. If there's a whole plan behind that from a couple of guys in Marath and Kavanagh, if nobody else, who don't tend to make mistakes. Guys with that amount of money don't tend to misjudge things, and they've already got involvement in British football, so we're getting a bit, I think we're getting a bit previous and already showing you the kind of benefits of a bit of patience. Let Celtic collapse instead of us just deliberately collapsing myself. But it takes the pressure off tonight, I think. There's no kind of, oh my God, we're lagging behind Celtic. Celtic got into the Champions League and we can't even avoid a pounding in the second leg. Maybe there'll be just enough pressure taken off us for us to sneak through. But I think the idea is that we would, the drain on resources would be so great, even if we did manage to go and buy a couple of £10 million strikers before 11 o'clock on Monday night. The drain on our resources would be so great to actually just try and avoid regular 6-7 goal doings in the Champions League group stage, that we'd end up finishing, we'd be lucky to finish in the top 6 domestically. And this is the main problem for Rangers supporters. They want to see domestic success. So it's a confuser, but we should take it as a real bonus. I need to, just one thing I've got to mention. I was talking about John Martin, the kind of folk singer, blues singer, tried everything to John Martin. I was talking about this song that he sings, Solidaire, and how I love, I don't listen even to the studio version of it, the album Solidaire. I don't listen to it. If I'm going to listen to that song, it's only the version that's on YouTube, which is from a live show in Germany in 1978. I did a whole thing about it at the end of the St Mirren post-match reaction pod, which is very emotional because of everything that was happening with us that day. But I just thought to myself, as I was talking about it again the other night, and I have watched it, dozens of times, this performance in which his guitar string breaks now, and he's kind of having a bit of a fight almost, and then a laugh with the audience. I think I've never actually bothered. I know it's a German show, Rock Palace, a famous show in Germany, but it's a kind of ugly whistle test of its time, except in a live studio audience. You get lots of stuff on YouTube. Artists are performing Rock Palace behind them, the big banner behind them. But I've never actually checked out the rest of the concert. I've never tried to find it if you can find the rest of the concert, 'cause I would like to know what is it he sings after that song. What was the banter with the audience before the recording starts? That little 8-minute clip that I posted on my post-match reaction the other day. Well, I just looked it up and there it is. It's like an hour and 5 minutes long. And it's Rock Palace, and it's from a place called Audimax in Hamburg. And it's the 17th of March, 1978. 2 days, that's a Friday night. The next day, we beat Celtic in the League Cup final. Johannes Edvalsson equalises late on. Davy Cooper scores his first. Go a minute silence for Bobby McKean. Before the game, we particularly Davy Cooper, and then you've got Gordon Smith scores a winner in extra time, and it's part of us. We win the treble. But we played the League Cup final the next day, on the Saturday, and on the Wednesday, 2 days before it, Club Brugge had lost 3-2 in the Manzanares in front of 70,000 to Atletico Madrid in the second leg of the European Cup quarter-final, which they'd won the first leg in the Jan Bredow 2-0, so that was them through to the European Cup semi-final. This was Club Brugge's greatest ever run in Europe. They would get to the final, they'd lose the 1978 European Cup final in Hamburg. It's Audimax in Hamburg. This is where John Martin's playing his concert. Hamburg would lose the final in 1980, also to an English side 2 years later. Then they'd win it in 1983, Hamburg. But Audimax is in Hamburg. It's a lecture hall. It holds about 1,600 people. It's the biggest lecture hall in Hamburg, but it frequently gets used for concerts. And some of the people that have used it for concerts, I just looked up on Wikipedia, like AC/DC, because the last person listed is B.B. King. I was talking on Sunday about how he does a bit. He's talking about how old blues singers really love their guitars, and he's like, "Oh, Bernadette, oh Lucille," and that's B.B. King's guitar, Lucille. He's taking a piss, but B.B. King had actually played in that very venue, probably sitting in the very spot he's sitting in, the wee kind of lectern type stage type thing going on. I just found that all really quite coincidental. Okay, I'll get more on it now. I also, come on, let's get snappy here. I've not got a lot of time till the game kicks off. I also, in the snagging list, I'm going to continue the snagging list, the podcast on Sunday, the post-match reaction pod, I talked about Dieter Hoeneß when I meant to say Dieter Muller, and I was talking about Tommy McLean. The focus was on Tommy McLean at a Barcelona Bear and how many crucial goals he'd scored in European football, not just for Rangers, scored against Real Madrid for Kilmarnock. And I was talking about him scoring against Cologne in the 1978-79 European Cup quarter-final second leg at Ibrox, which we drew one each. We'd lost 1-0 away from home in the first leg in Cologne, in Germany. And I say that Dieter Hoeneß had scored for Cologne at Ibrox. There was a game that it was postponed on the Wednesday because snow had come falling down really quick on the Wednesday, and they cleared the pitch all day Thursday, got the game played. And it was unusual for European football matches to be played on a Thursday night back then, but it was live on the telly. I watched it at my gran's. The second leg live at Ibrox, but we're 1-0 down for the first leg, and then Dieter Muller it was that scored the first goal at Ibrox that night. Tommy McLean equalised, but away goals as well. We lose the tie 2-1. We draw 1 each on the night, but we've lost the tie 2-1. And I'm so sorry I got that. I just was too emotional on Sunday, and I've been talking about Gerd Muller. It was a week and 4 years since Gerd Muller had died, and he's like my stats hero. And Gerd Muller had scored 2 goals for West Germany in the 1972 Euros, the final of the Euros. He scored more than 2 goals in the Euros in 72. He scored 2 goals in the final in 1972, just about a month after Rangers had won the Cup final in Barcelona, having beaten Gerd Muller and his Bayern team. There were about 6 of them were playing in that final against the Soviet Union for West Germany in 72. And then Dieter Muller, who's a Cologne player, he scores 2 goals in the final of Euro 76. By that time, Gerd Muller has packed it in with the Germans because he wouldn't let his wife have a drink. So he's packed it in, and it's now Dieter Muller, and he also scores 2 goals in the next final of the Euros. That's the one with the Panenka, and the Panenka is the penalty. No, it's the guy Panenka that played for Czechoslovakia. He needs to score his penalty to win the Euros for Czechoslovakia. So he comes up and he dinks it over the goal. The goalie dives to the side and he just dinks it gently down the middle, so it just kind of goes over the goalie's legs. I can't remember what you call that type of penalty, but it's Panenka that scored that. But West Germany's penalty miss that night was Uli Hoeneß, who's Dieter Hoeneß was his big brother. But Dieter Hoeneß is massive, whereas Uli Hoeneß is a kind of svelte, blonde, kind of rinky-dinky type. He was a bit of an artist, an attacking midfielder, or a 10, if you like, a bit of a striker as well, kind of glamour boy. He was all action, whereas his wee brother, who's an absolute beastie, a guy, absolutely huge. He, a big baldy from age 5, I think. He was just a massive, typical physical German centre forward. So Uli Hoeneß missing a penalty, Gerdy Muller, Dieter Muller. It just got me all kind of confused, because Rangers in 70-71, we lost 1-0 at Bayern Munich in the first leg, and then they came to Ibrox and they drew 1-1 on the night, and Gerd Muller scored in that game. So it meant this is 70-71 Fairs Cup, the season before, youngsters, the season before we played Bayern Munich and beat them in the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. The season before that, we'd played them in the first round of the Fairs Cup, and they beat us 2-1 in aggregate, 1-0 first leg in Germany. We lost and then won each other. The same as that game later on in the 70s against Cologne. So no wonder I was getting it all mixed up. Dieter Muller, Gerd Muller, I was getting it all mixed up there. And Dieter Hoeneß and Uli Hoeneß, both Uli Hoeneß and Dieter Hoeneß involved in the ownership of the running of Bayern, and Uli Hoeneß ended up in jail. Really is getting that 70-71 Fairs Cup. Hibs played Malmo and they beat them 6-0 at Easter Road. And 43 years later, Malmo play Hibs in the Europa League, which is the same thing, and Malmo win 7-0 at Easter Road. It's quite amazing. That must be a kind of a unique thing, sort of. But it's all European football. I love my European football. I love Rangers in Europe, and I would love Rangers to continue in the chat. I just think it all comes down to it. I sod it. If we could pull it off tomorrow night, it'd be amazing. But it's going to be a near impossible task, but it's something that just doesn't happen. I only know of 2 other instances that Scottish teams, only I can think of off the top of my head, but it might be where Scottish teams have turned round any kind of deficit from a home first leg to win the tie overall. This is I mean, obviously the group stages now are all the thing. It's been a thing for 30 years with the Champions League, and now we're into the Europa League group stages, with UEFA Cup group stages in 2005 onwards. It's that kind of thing where we don't really count that the same way, do we? I've not tallied up scores, home and away scores from group stage encounters, because they don't sometimes finish one. And now we're not even doing home and away in the group stage, but this home and away two-legged ties in Europe. There's been plenty of times I can think of Rangers losing at home in the first leg, and then we lost 1-0 at home to Real Madrid in the 63-64 European Cup. Puskas scoring the only goal of the game, Whiskey, Jim Baxter. In the away leg, we lost 6-0. So it was game over. We lost to Milan, the 57-58, I think it was, European Cup, second round. Milan would go on to lose the final 3-2 to Real Madrid in the Heysel after extra time. Amazingly exciting game. But they beat us 4-1 at Ibrox in the first leg, and then they did us the disrespect of not even playing the return leg at the San Siro. They played it at the Arena Civica, which is basically like, it's a very interesting stadium. I think it's Napoleon built it or something like that. But it's a bit like playing, and there is a connection in terms of age, between Lesser Hampden and the Arena Civica, oldest kind of buildings and used for association football in the world. But it'd be a bit like playing somebody at Lesser Hampden instead of Hampden. If we were playing, it's a massive disrespect. They weren't going to get the crowd for the second leg, so they played us at the reserves stadium, basically, in the second leg, Milan, but they beat us 2-0 that night as well. So there's been a kind of, not really getting very close to any after being defeated at home. It's only, I think, Motherwell beat Llanelli. I think it was the very first season of the Europa League, because I tried to go. This is before we had wee problems in 2011, 2012, and everybody kind of turned on us. So I was still in that way where I was like, I don't mind turning up. I would never go and see Celtic or Aberdeen, but I would go and watch other Scottish teams if they were playing somebody that I was interested in seeing. And I tried to go along. It was played at the Shirebury Excelsior. They played it at Airdrie, Motherwell. I think it was the very first Europa League match played in Scotland, if not Britain. Probably Scotland, maybe in an earlier round, maybe teams from Northern Ireland, I'm not sure. But I think it was 2009, 2010, the first season of the Europa League, and Llanelli won at Airdrie against Motherwell, but then Motherwell didn't, and they won by more than at Llanelli. I don't even think they played it at Llanelli, or they didn't play it at their home stadium. I think they played it at the Parky Scarlets, which is the rugby team stadium. So both of them had played home games not at their home, and both of them had lost at home. And Motherwell became at Celtic beat Moscow Dynamo. Moscow Dynamo beat them at Parkhead. And then the second leg, Celtic won in Moscow by more. That's the only instances I think. I think Samaras was playing that kind of era. You know, the kind of 2000s, late 2000s. I don't, the noughties perhaps. I don't know the exact date or the exact, but I think that's the only 2 times that a Scottish club has recovered from any kind of first leg deficit. I'm probably wrong. It's probably happened hundreds of times. You know, a first leg deficit at home, a home deficit in the first leg. Whereas, what are the examples of Rangers losing? We lost 3-1 last week. What are the examples of Rangers having lost by 2 goals at home in the first leg? Well, you got the 1960-61 Cup Winners' Cup final, the first European final we played in. We lost 2-0 at home in the first leg. It was the only Cup Winners' Cup final we played over 2 legs. There was quite a few had replays, but this was only one. It was specifically 2 legs. It was played over. It was the very first Cup Winners' Cup final, and we lost 2-0 at home. Luigi Milani getting both the goals for Fiorentina for about 80,000 at Ibrox, and then we lost the away leg 2-1. Alex Scott scored for us in Milani. And Kurt Hamren, who would score another Cup Winners' Cup final for Milan. He scored against us, the Swedish international. And there's a pattern emerging here. He played. We also lost to Bayern. We lost 3-1 to Bayern at home in the 89-90 European Cup. I was at that one. Klaus Augenthaler, who scored an amazing goal at Pataudry when Aberdeen beat them in that famous 83 Cup Winners' Cup quarter final. He scored this amazing goal against us at Ibrox and at the Brimlin. I was in the Brimlin, the back of the Brimlin that night. In the first leg, they beat us 3-1. It was Bobby Robson was there watching Mark Walters, so Mark Walters wasn't very good. But we lost 3-1 at home. But we drew away from home, we drew 0-0. Dieter Hoeneß, he wasn't playing that night. Alan McInally became the Dieter Hoeneß character in that German team. He was the same kind of build. That Bayern team, I don't think Dieter Hoeneß was playing anymore. Dieter Hoeneß, who played in the 82 European Cup final against Aston Villa, which Villa won 1-0, Peter With and all that, and Jimmy Rimmer, Nigel Spink. But I think he probably played in the 87 European Cup final, which Bayern also lost to Porto in Vienna. But Erwin Kogel, he scored that night. He scored Bayern's goal that night when they lost to Porto in that European Cup final, and he scored that night at Ibrox when they beat us 3-1 in the 89-90 European Cup. What a record we've got against Bayern. I mean, it destroys it in like that, but they beat us most times, Bayern, but my God, we meet each other quite a lot in Europe. So, Kurt Hamren, who scored against us in the second leg in that 60-61 Cup Winners' Cup final, he won the European Cup with Milan in 1969, in the 1969 final. And the other time we've lost by 2 goals at home in a European tie first leg at Ibrox. Are you keeping up with this? Sorry, this is the stuff. This is what gets me on documentaries, being this interesting in this horrifically boring, fat, monotone voice. It was when we lost 3-1 to Bayer Leverkusen in the last 16 of the UEFA Cup 2020. 2019-20, it was March 2020. And remember we get beat 3-1 by Bayer Leverkusen, and that was the last game before lockdown. That was before the stadium was shut. Certainly the last game for me anyway. Certainly the last game for Rangers. And we didn't play the second leg until August, until the next season, which was a fantastic season. But it was a terrible game. We lost 1-0 over there. But Kai Havertz scored that night at Ibrox in the first leg, and he scores in the Champions League final in 2021. Also, the whole point of the John Martin doing that concert, the 17th of March, Club Brugge 2 days before had headed for the European Cup final, what would be the greatest for the semi-final, and what would be their greatest run in Europe. 17th of March is the day that we played them, when Scott Nisbet scored the winner, the 10-man Rangers against Club Brugge at Ibrox, 17th March 1993. I think that's quite a coincidence as far as I'm concerned. So we've had a few incidents of losing the first leg by 2 goals. I think last week's against Bruges was the 4th such incident, and the best we've managed in the away leg after all these was a 0-0 draw with Bayern in 89-90, the first rounds of the European Cup. So we've got no chance. It's just not going to happen. Rangers playing Bruges in the Champions League and on the way to the treble back in 92-93. It's not quite the same kind of atmosphere just now, but I think we're all, how cautious are we going to be about this game? Are we looking towards Sunday? We get one eye on Sunday. Is the management concentrating on Sunday more than it isn't? Obviously, Russell Martin in his pre-match presser said they weren't even thinking about Sunday just now. The players, he wasn't talking to the players about Sunday, but he must have one eye on it. But for me, just the way things are with Russell Martin just now, it's all about Russell Martin in particular. It's not about what competition Rangers are in. It's just how is this guy making us play. We don't like Russell Martin just now. We want rid of him. I don't know. It's superstition maybe in my part, and it's been proven to be seriously untrue and an unreliable superstition. But certainly when I was a kid and well into my 30s, and that, I always felt a bit better going into Old Firm games if we were on the worst run of form. And we have been a lot of the time going into Old Firm games of late, and it hasn't worked out that way. It's just like the team that's in the best run of form wins. But wasn't it always like that? Celtic 3 out of 3. Like we haven't won a single game yet in our 3 league games so far. Haven't lost one either. But I don't know. I feel more excited about that probably now about tonight. Bruges at the weekend, they postponed their game against Westerlo. They've had that option, the same as we had, to postpone their game in between the two playoff ties in Europe, but we didn't. They did, which left them 4 points off the top of the table. They're in 4th place, but plenty of time to catch up. I think they're playing Ghent. They're playing Ghent on Sunday at lunchtime. Same as I say, they've got a big game at the weekend as well, and their manager's saying he hopes Rangers keep a hold of Russell Martin, which is a big rant on Sunday about how I hate the fact that any kind of care or compassion or attempt to improve people and help their kind of attitude in life, look after their mental health. There's a whole lot of people out there these days that want to attack that. They just hate it. They hate the idea that anybody else is getting any kind of help or anything. So you can ask for help as well. And it's seen as being woke, and we don't like that. Well, this is where I'm like that. The man, you feel sorry for our manager, you hope he gets kept on. You're like, fuck you, let's get that up in the dressing room while we are Russell, and let's shove that right up that guy's chuff on the park tomorrow night. John Souttar and Liam Kelly, they're the only non-Serie A players in the Steve Clarke's latest Scotland squad for the World Cup qualifiers coming up the weekend after this. Other news, we're supposed to be after Chris Meffam. He's a Welsh centre-half, 27 years old, 49 caps for Wales. He's at Bournemouth just now, not really getting a game there. They had him out on loan at Sunderland last season, so he's a championship player. He's a guy who's done well in the championship, getting Sunderland up into the top flight. That's just the kind of guy we're going for. But we need another centre-half. That's for goddamn cotton picking sure. So it'd be quite good about his... He went, was it in 2019, he went to Bournemouth from Brentford for £12 million. So that's how much he's been worth at some point. But I don't think we're trying to get him on loan. I think we're trying to get him at a knockdown price. And tomorrow night will go a long way towards that. Or maybe Russell Martin is just saying to Marath. And I think Marath has a reputation in his time at Leeds. Parag Marath, our vice chairman, who's the chairman at Leeds United, for waiting to the last minute of the transfer window to get the best bargains. So maybe this is somebody that we're lining up to get at a proper knockdown price, but we're definitely going to need some more players in there, and that's also why we shouldn't be judging the manager too harshly just now, I think, because he's not really got all the players he wants to have so far. But Igamane, that was a big thing. I sat aghast as the Igamane didn't come on the park. Obviously, he was asked to come on as a sub during the game against St Mirren, and he refused. And Russell Martin just came out and said this after the game. He told Sky, he said he had an injury, and quite clearly Russell Martin didn't believe that. He never came out and said the guy was lying. He said he's had an offer. He's had an offer, and I think from Lille it must be this week. So he's saying, as far as I'm concerned, the guy, his head's been turned. He doesn't want to be here, and he's faking the injury, and he's refused to come on. He shouldn't. If he's going to do that, he shouldn't have been in the. He should have disqualified himself from being in the squad. Should Hamza Igamane, but amazingly, because it's a pylon, because it has to be a pylon. The next day, I'm listening to people saying that. He'd gone to Russell Martin shouldn't have said that. That's really bad to let. What? Sky. I'm watching the Sky. I should actually have watched that again. I've still got it recorded. I'm watching Sky, and Ian Crocker is saying there's confusion in the Rangers bench. He's mentioned the fact, Hamza Igamane's coming on. Oh no, he's not coming on. I don't know what's happened. It's like, is the manager losing the plot? Doesn't know what substitute he wants to put on. Is he changing his mind every 2 seconds, or is something going on there? It would have been asked of him. It would have been asked. I've got trackside reporters. Luke Shanley was probably down there watching that something was clearly happening. A substitute clearly wasn't coming on, and it would have been put to it would have been put to Russell Martin in you're losing the dressing room kind of style. That'd be the implication. And so he's just got there ahead of it. He's owned it and he's admitted what's happening. And Hamza Igamane, we're hearing, is going to be leaving the club. It looks like he's accepting the deal to go to Lille, or we're accepting the deal to get him off to Lille. But I think he did well. Russell Martin, I feel as if we're just trying to find reasons. It's getting a bit kind of pitchfork wielding vibe right now. It's genuinely disturbing, and it just lacks kind of basic perspective at times. I mean, I'm not going to say we're like a bunch of spoiled wee Waynes, because I mean, Rangers should be winning more trophies. I believe that as well. We should be winning. We've got the funds now, the size of support we've got. We should be winning more. But I'm still no. I think we're screaming for years that the players keep letting every manager down, but then we're hunting the managers and we're keeping the same dressing room, which is killing us in these kind of games. Yet now we're having a pop at the manager for blowing the dressing room open, for airing the kind of fusty, kind of tangy air in the dressing room, for performing the very kind of bloodletting I think that it needs. Personally, I'm loving it. It obviously seems to be something on with Raskin, who may also be, you never know, he might leave this transfer window. He might be looking at other offers, but I think there's been too much back and forth, too much talking about Nico Raskin in the press conferences of Russell Martin for there not to be some sort of problem there in terms of who's the boss of the place, and it can only be the head coach. We're having the kind of bad period straight away this time, instead of the usual 10-game new manager bounce run that we get, and then it starts going wrong again, and we all start giving, oh god, it's these players, they're the problem. Well, he's dealing with these players just now. Obviously, we haven't yet proven that we can have the run of good results, but there's not all been bad results under Russell. He's only lost one meaningful match. It's always followed by what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing right now is what always follows the new manager bounce. The last 3 managers we've had. So let's do it now. Let's just have the confrontation just now. If we go into August, if we go through August and into September, right in the middle of September, and it's still just the same kind of brand of football, which is clueless. I'm not trying to say for a second that it's no rank at times just now, the football we're playing. If it's still going like that, then there's going to be questions asked. But I just think it's a function of what we're actually trying to achieve just now. Every single thing we were told, not just about Russell Martin, but about what needs to happen with our squad, means it should be exactly like this. In fact, I think we actually should have lost domestically by this time, and we shouldn't have got this far in the Champions League, as I say, which is further than Philip Clement managed to get. The other thing we know about Russell Martin is he wins derbies. Okay, Swansea against Cardiff, and Brendan Rodgers is a former Swansea manager as well. Swansea against Cardiff is nothing at the same level as the old firm, but he does get this whole thing. He's no working, he's no got it. He needs to go. The fans won't stand for it. It's such a kind of, they're such drama queens. It's August. It's not even the end of August. We've had 2 more games. We've got 2 more games still to play in August, and we're going to sack, us, the Rangers support, we're going to hound out a Rangers manager brought into effect, kind of legacy levels of change from a base of legacy issues, and total incompetence, issues of incompetence. And we couldn't give him till September of his first season in charge. Him having only arrived in June. I'm not being funny, Trips, but he's dropped as many points in his 3 league games in charge as Barry Ferguson dropped in his first 2 home games in charge last season. He's starting with a base level of draws, no losses in the league, and he's trying something different. We can't take that. Apparently, it's so ambitious that it's requiring such kind of massive changes to the squad that it's not working straight away. It looks awful. Aye, the football just now does look awful, but so does my hair first thing in the morning. It's on my eyes and all that, and I can't see anything, and it's all sticking out and all the place. It's kind of hitting my shoulders and stuff like that. But I just need an hour in the shower, and then under the kind of the dryer, and I get the crimpers and the curlers and that into it, and then voila, kind of Buffon brilliance. So I don't think we should be sacking Russell Martin until at least Christmas time, the kind of lunchtime of this season, to show us what he can do with our do. I'm watching the Rangers support just now, not Rangers support, but the online stuff. I see Rangers Review put out a tweet tonight. I was trying to find out what time the press conference was going to be when we were talking to Russell Martin, finding out his pre-match presser. So I looked up Rangers Review, the kind of top guys when it comes to reporting on Rangers these days. I looked up their Twitter account, and it says there's a wee photograph of the camera sitting in the press room at Brugge, and it's going to be Oliver Antman and Russell Martin being presented to the press soon. And the replies underneath, it just replies, virtually all of them. It was vegan this, vegan that, herbal tea, get him to make him announce he's leaving, I don't have to listen to this. Time for the gaslighting to begin. Use of shut it if you don't, get him tell how crap he is and stuff. I was like, this is unbelievable. It's more I feel as if more a kind of social phenomenon than it's a societal problem. And I never thought I'd be saying that about trying to sack managers, but I think a lot of our fans, they're working themselves into that kind of frenzy. It's working its way backwards from the pitch. It's the players' fault. And it's working back to the technical area, Russell Martin. And over the last few days, I've just seen the first signs of it's kind of going up the tunnel and then back up the director's box. And I saw Thelwell. I'm seeing a few Thelwell and Purdy don't know what they're doing. They were crap at Everton as well. And it's kind of working its way, kind of order of precedence, into the various other directors' seats. And that's Patrick Stewart. He doesn't know what he's doing. He got Manchester United. That's why they're not in Europe this season. The problems that he caused there. That's why Man City are the dominant team in Manchester now. After everything Ferguson did with Man U, he ruined that as well. And I saw yesterday my first. It finally got there. It didn't take that long, but I saw my first. What the 49ers think they're doing? I would have expected more for the 49ers when it came to this. So the American, that's it. It's taken 2 months. June, the takeover was announced. There's a lot more excitement before that when it was rumoured. And I'm just going to say, I don't think we need to get that excited about it, but it's not. That's it. They're going to go. So it's going to be, and there's an announcement, somebody saying they're going to be there on Sunday. Marath and Kavanagh are going to be in the director's box on Sunday. I don't know if that's true or not. They're coming over for the Old Firm game. So I think we've got ourselves sorted for just the Kalashnikovs and all that, Death to America! Suddenly, all these Stars and Stripes banners are all getting burned, and stuff like that. Make America great again. Make America a colony again, mate. I've got a nasal ululating, the Burberry and putting in teddy bears are just up their director's box. They're going to have to go, man. Just like, they're going to think, what have we turned up in? There's a kind of mufti organised demonstration in Tehran Town Square or something. No, it's Ibrox. It's Ibrox, and they're out to get you. Death to the infidel pig dogs. It's going to be quite. Everybody's gearing up for it to be a toxic atmosphere. I think a few folk are going to be really disappointed if it's not a toxic atmosphere on Sunday. It used to be sectarianism was, Rangers against Celtic. We needed Celtic. This is what happens. This is always going to be what happened when we stopped the fans going to Old Firm games. We stopped the away fans going to Old Firm games. We just start on each other. There needs to be toxicity at an Old Firm game. So if there's no away fans, eventually, we had a few years of it being, this is nice. It's a bit quiet at times, but it's quite nice. It's just all us. And no, we need that energy. We need it. So it is it's sectarianism. It has to be you're in the same sect, or your sects within the same kind of general organisation. Catholics versus Protestants. But we're all Christians, supposedly. Great line, of course, with Frank Carson. That's the problem. Too many Catholics, too many Protestants, and not enough Christians. But so we're just taking to say it's all Rangers supporters, but you've got your happy clappers, versus your send them home. The boats have got to send back the boats and that. It's the kind of, because we drew with St Mirren, Ma Wayne's getting a sex change forced on it. Versus every time you slag Russell Martin, a unicorn gets stomach cramps or something. That's what's going. All this kind of cultural thing has been taken out on the body, the person, the image, the political figure of Russell the vegan Martin. He's only a vegan because it's his stomach. Actually, the issue is with his stomach. He just can't eat meat. I don't think it's not that he's made a political choice here, but he's a Buddhist. It's the herbal tea and all that. And it's funny how these guys, a lot, and you go and you look, you immediately go, is this guy for real? So you check their profiles just to see that they're not a Celtic fan at the wind-up or something, the stuff they're saying. But a lot of these Rangers fans have got to think it's the rape gangs. It's all the rape gangs. It's, don't seem to be bothered with Jimmy Savile or the Yorkshire Ripper or all the kind of, the British rape gangs, the white rape gangs. It's the British ones of Asian descent or something. The rape gangs. If you don't want all the boats sent back, that means that you're approving of rape. I got a wee lovely wee message sent to me like that the other day. But it's all the rape gang, but they hate a guy because he drinks herbal tea. And I don't even know if he does drink herbal tea, but that was the accusation. The guy's got the same person on the internet. He's got this stuff, the same person Twitter profile, all this stuff about hating the Asians because they're all rapists. but he hates. Surely that means then that a guy who's like drinking herbal tea and likes a bit of Buddhism and all that is totally reconstructed male. It's kind of, but surely he's exactly the opposite of the rape. That's the kind of guy you're wanting, is it? No, but no. It's just, why is there all such a rapey vibe coming from folk who are obsessed with the rape gang? So that's really unpleasant. But it just seems it's nothing really to do with Russell Martin himself or the management. It was supposed to be slow to start with, and it is. The other thing, we've got this like Manuel Fernandez. He's got to go. He's not. He's rubbish. Another disaster. You're forgetting like Calvin Bassey. A terrible entire. He's played 2 games for us. Manuel Fernandez, Manny Fernandez from Peterborough. But the Peterborough fans were all celebrating. So what? Do you think any Leicester City fans gave a monkeys that we signed Calvin Bassey for the kind of youth set up there? He wasn't getting a game at Leicester City, and he was terrible for us in the first season. It was a bomb scare at any time. The second season, he starts off, he's like, I think it was Bonabarisic was suspended. That's the only reason he played at left back against Livingston at Ibrox, the first or second game of the season. And he was actually, but I remember being at that game, and everybody's kind of, oh, Chris Bassett. Oh, actually, he's playing quite well. It took about half an hour of him playing really well, bombing up and down the wing and picking great balls into the box for folk to see that he was playing well, because we're so set in our ways about what we're going to. It's this whole stuff with it's Max Aarons has gone full circle as well, and especially like a fortnight. And you take the stuff with Max. He's got to get him in. That's why we gubbed Pilsen 3-0, because he finally got into putting Max Aarons in it right back and getting Tav out the way. That was what he had to do. But we hate Max Aarons. He's rubbish as well. I think maybe we just taking a while to settle in. We shouldn't have been so hasty at first about the fact that he was playing at left back, and we shouldn't be so hasty now the fact that we don't think he's very good at right back either. Everybody just needs to calm down, I think, including myself. Let's be honest. But this cannot continue. I'm mental, yeah, and I'm as crazy as everybody else. By the way, if I'm thinking that this football that we're playing just now, especially domestically, is the kind of football that's going to be acceptable going forward, I'm not saying that. I just feel as if this is what it's supposed to like. Game 10, folks. Game 10. This is the 10th game. This is the Southampton fan. The Southampton fan. He got in touch with follow, and he said it takes him 10 games. I don't know if it's game number 10 that we take off. Suddenly everything's fantastic, and the flowing football that we're expected to kick in does kick in game 10, or if it's going to kick in game 11, which is Celtic at Ibrox. But I'm actually finding it quite exciting, looking forward to seeing this. And if it doesn't happen, well then that's fine. We start to, I think only then we can start having real proper doubts. I like that Martin's playing these games down as well. It's a process, it's a mantra this time, but it's also much needed cover for the rest of the players to let them get on with the job of just getting into his. It will certainly focus every player's mind, I think, the amount of pressure they're under just now, even if they still want to. They want to move. I think the end of the transfer window coming up on Monday, even if you're somebody who wants a move, who wants away from Ibrox, well, you're not going to get that until January at the soonest, and you better be playing good football. And also you'll have a go at European football as well. And if you get dropped for the squad, that means you're not playing well enough in domestic games as well. So they'll focus everybody's minds. The manager himself has been talking about how a lot of the players have their eyes turned by their agents, etc., other offers. So we don't really know how they're properly going to be playing until next Monday. Martin will know his best team by 11 p.m. on Monday night. We need to see how it's this whole kind of first team's worth of new signings start gelling once they've got their bearings in Scotland and Glasgow at Ibrox with their new teammates, and language and cultures all new. And once they've digested the kind of massive playbook, Russell Martin's obviously making them all swallow right now. He's lost one meaningful game. I think that was last Tuesday. And he's won 3 very meaningful games. And I know Alloa might not think that was a very meaningful game to win, but the reserve teams out there, and we'll look what happened against Queen's Park last season, and the Scottish, a bunch of second stringers managed to take care of Alloa and get us into the League Cup quarter-final. Very important. He's stripping it all back to basics and starting again, Russell Martin. If this is how he does with the kind of barest, kind of stripped down basics, I'd like to see how it works when it all clicks in. At least give him another month for more signs of it clicking in. I mean, WTF else are we doing anyway? We've been crap in the domestic scene for 4 years. Why not try patience with a guy who's apparently squaring up to that problem and its root causes, the dressing room. He's taken on the dressing room. It's, the working environment, the players, I think us, the fans as well. He keeps mentioning how nobody's come up to him in the street and said they've got a problem with him as well. It's quite good. He's just saying, come on, say it to my face. No one he's selling or dropping hasn't been slagged rotten at some. None of the players that he's benched or whatever haven't been slagged rotten by us at some point. If nothing else, it's a clear out. And you don't care about Europe anyway, right? That's what we've been saying as a Rangers. We don't care about Europe anyway, so we don't really worry about tonight. Just don't get pumped tonight. My score prediction, I think we'll probably lose 3-1 again, but I would take one each. I think one each is quite likely. My team, that's the interesting bit. Has Russell Martin written off this, and he's preparing for Celtic. He's written off the European thing, preparing for Celtic, but fielding a second string team in Bruges could see us humiliated in a way that would take it into the Old Firm game. A negative effect. Joe Rothwell looked shagged on Sunday, more so than ever, and he admitted to that as well. He's not been fit, not been fully fit, and it was good of him just to say so. But everyone else got more on top of St Mirren as we approached the kind of 90th minutes, which means there's a good level of basic fitness there. Too little, too late, obviously, but I don't know. I don't know if we made a mistake playing that game just so we could serve Giga's suspension, or if it's actually needed to get us closer to peak fitness quicker. So that's manager's presser today. First of all, he was asked interminably about our own Alexander Isak situation. I'll take 149 million, right? From Leo, and we'll just call it a day. We'll take a loss on that. You can have Igamane, Leo, but he says Igamane's gone. Basically, it's not. Everybody they kept asking him. The hacks kept trying to put words in his mouth about how disruptive it had been, this incident, and that Alexander Isak's doing the whole. It seems to be the way Martin Guehi with Oliver Glasner down at Crystal Palace, dissing him on the pitch at Stamford Bridge. It seems to be the way these things go. I remember the stories of David Trezeguet and Thierry Henry wanting a move from Monaco to Juventus, and the two of them were just sitting reading the newspaper while the managers try to speak in the Monaco, in the dressing room before games kick off. Just absolutely out of order. But this is what players have been doing forever. But he said he wasn't having it, Russell Martin, that it upset him or that it was really disruptive. It's just he's gone, he's away. And I thought it was quite funny when the fella said to him, "So how was his quad? Was his quad okay?" He says, "Oh, he's had the scan," and he wouldn't say there's nothing wrong with him, but he said, "I think he'll pass his medical when he goes." But he's not expecting to see him again. He thinks that's him. He's going to be away. But he was very careful, or very pointedly saying that he's got nothing against Hamza Igamane. He's a young guy who doesn't even speak the language, doesn't speak English very well, and he's getting people in his ear all the time, distracting him. So it's just about how much money we're going to get for him. But it's obvious after that on Sunday, that's it. He's done. We don't want to see him playing for us again. But it really pushed that in almost a kind of muckraking way by the hacks today. Just please, going to say it was disruptive, but he said it's not the player's fault, and I thought he's very cool in the presser, which people tend to hate now as well because he's not losing his shit because they're losing their shit. Rangers fans I'm talking about here, so. But I had the same problems at Southampton in a transfer window. So lots of players were distracted. I thought they were going to go elsewhere, and they had a bad run of results. But a key line for me was he was saying that at a time in the future when we've won something, I'll tell you exactly. Basically, I'll tell you exactly what was happening this whole month. So it's obviously there is chaos behind the scenes. He's going to have to sort it out. But he's also, when I try to mention the problems after we've had a slip up, it looks like I'm making excuses. So once I've got the luxury of the SPFL Premiership trophy in my hands, then I'll say, "Oh, by the way, this is what was happening at the beginning of the season. I was trying to sort everything for you, trying to get us to this point." The players that are here for longer, he said they'll have come up against it before as well. The players have fan anger. He was asked about the fan anger at the end of the game, and it's that kind of really, "Oh, Russell, it was awful, wasn't it? They seemed like they wanted to kill you," kind of thing. And he's not having it. It's all very leading questions in the tone anyway, but he wasn't going to be swayed by fan anger. He's seen it before as a player and a manager. Make of that what you will. But the team, he's saying the team has to dictate the energy. There's an unwritten contract that the team has to dictate the energy to the fans. In other words, it's the team's responsibility to get the fans on side. and he's grateful for all the times the supporters have got behind him, and he was not for 1 second blaming the supporters for the reaction on Sunday. He won't criticise the fans. I won't criticise the fans. It doesn't affect him personally. He says it can't. He's only worried about how the owners or his bosses see the situation just now, and they're very calm. So he's always emphasising it's a big job, and it will be tough at first on the pitch. There's going to be a bit of pain. That was his whole tone. But the Hacks won't let it go in this presser over in Bruges. And they need to get headlines about him being stressed and under pressure, and Igamane really messing things up for him. But he says when the energy and flow is right, we'll have some great moments together. And that's what I feel. It's just a matter of getting the energy and the flow right. I feel as if this thing has got to click at some point. We're just in the kind of... we're waiting for the big reveal. It's kind of Homes Under the Hammer, the garden DIY thing with Charlie Dimmock or whatever. We're in the kind of montage moment just now. We're seeing all the effort that's going in, but now we just wait to see. It's no longer going to be paint the fence, wax on, wax off. We want to get to the point where it's like, right, sweep the legs, sweep Celtic's legs, whatever. We're going to do that kind of thing. I know that's still a way around in Karate Kid, but it's the good guy who's supposed to get his legs swept. But you know what I mean. I think we're just waiting for the team to suddenly show that they're working together, and it's been there that it's going to take them. It always takes them a few weeks. It takes them a few months even. At Southampton, at Swansea, shouldn't have been any different at Rangers, but I think so far he's not actually had the amount of losses or conceded the amount of goals that we should. And we're getting all this chat about how but that's just because of Jack Butland. Well, Simon Mignolet barely managed to get his hands close enough to the ball last week to stop us pulling it back to 3-2 against Bruges. I'm hearing Rangers fans going, don't give us all this stuff that bringing it back to 3-1 means anything just because Bruges took their foot off the gas. Yeah, well, if we hadn't taken advantage of the fact Bruges took their foot off the gas to at least pull one goal back, it's getting out of hand. It's getting to the point where it's just like we can't even. We'll call black white just to make sure that we don't give the man any kind of compliment or any kind of slack. It's a pile-on. But he said he's ended his press conference by saying, "So we're here, we attack it. So we're here, we attack it." And he went on to say, we're in Bruges or whatever it is, and we're going to try and attack the game at hand. I haven't spoken to the players about Sunday. He's saying it's just all the focus is on this game against Bruges. But I just love it if we went. So we're here, we're queer. Get used to it. It would have been quite nice to see finally pushing folk over the edge. The team I'm going to guess it, but we're absolutely going to go for it tonight. We're going to have to put out our best team and play at our best just to keep this respectable. We don't want to take a hammering. This is a team that scored 3 goals against us in 20 minutes at Ibrox. I would hope having played another game in between times will be more beneficial to us knitting together. But it's going to be Jack Butland in goals for me. I would have Tav in there. Give Aarons a wee rest. It's not going well for him just now, but I'm not writing the fella off. Tav at right back. Giga and Suter, your centre halves. Magoma is going to be a left back. I think we'll have to give Joe Rothwell has to get a rest, and I'd have Nico Raskin with Lyle Cameron and probably Diamande, even though Diamande's not having a great season. It's that kind of midfield 3. Oliver Antman at sides on your right hand side of the front 3. Gassam on the left hand side, and I'd have Dessers has travelled apparently. He's travelled with the squads. He was at the training session before they left, so he's over there. They're hoping he's going to be okay. A big Cyril, born in Belgium, Nigerian international, born in Belgium. Hopefully he's going to go over there. Maybe this is his last game for Rangers, and he could go out in the style. The thing that I think he did best for us is scoring away from home in Europe. Cyril Dessers, we've lost 2-0 at home. We've lost by 2 goals at home twice already. Like last season, we lost at home to, in different circumstances, different stadiums, different competitions. We lost 2-0 at home to Moscow Dynamo Kiev in the second leg of the Champions League third qualifying rounds after drawing 1 each over in Lublin the first game. So out we go at Hamden then. Towards the end of the run in the Europa League, it's Fenerbahce beating us 2-0 at Ibrox, but we beat them in penalties because we won the away leg 3-1 in the Europa League, and it was phenomenal. And in between times we've lost 4-1 at home to Lyon in the group stage. Losing by 2 goals at home in Europe is not... It's something we're quite used to, even amid a great European run. It's not the disaster that's been made out to be. But if we go out here tonight and get tanked again, then maybe it's just going to get a bit embarrassing, and it will mount more pressure on the players ahead of a toxic Old Firm game on Sunday. But I feel as if it should be Dessers through the middle if he's fit enough. But it could be Asgard again, the false 9, whatever. But Asgard also could be going in for Diamande instead, perhaps. If Dio's still not really recovering his form, it doesn't look like a happy chappy these days, Dio. It could be Asgard playing on the kind of 8 position to the left, just in front of Raskin. Or because of Finlay Curtis have a go. I don't know if Finlay Curtis can play through the middle. He should maybe be playing off the wing. But he's scoring goals, Finlay Curtis. He's just scoring goals like nobody else. He's scored in 3 different competitions, 2 different friendlies already this season. It's absolutely fine. And I've just got the Rangers, and the first thing to do is, the main thing is, for God's sake, don't win. Don't win like 1-0 or 2-1. Don't win by a single goal, because then it'll be, oh my God, you couldn't just push it and take it to penalties. You lost that in the first 20 minutes at Ibrox. It'll be that kind of moaning. I would prefer that to the gubbed again. Thought they would, but I just want to see a bit of self-respect, kind of knitting it together, get the team looking more gelled, and get ourselves get in. But if I can end, if there's just one thing I'm going to end with, folks, sorry it's gone on. It's 1.5 hours. That's far too long for a preview pod. I'll do a really, really short post-match reaction. But folks, I want to end with a mind-blowing revelation about this, a detail that you're probably not ready for. So maybe sit down and I'll give you a few hours to process this before the game kicks off. Regarding this season's Champions League, the finals in Budapest.